Breaker Broke 23. In this video, I'm going to show you guys what I do when I bring home a stereo amplifier or receiver home from a yard sale or a thrift store. Okay, so if you're a viewer of this channel, you'll know that I'm kind of into vintage home audio. This is kind of my deal. But you have to be careful when you bring these things home. These things can, when they're quite old, 30, 40 plus years old, even 20 years old, you can have issues. And these issues can blow your speakers. And so I've actually had that happen here not too long ago. A few years ago, I brought home a nice little NAD 100-watt amplifier and plugged it into my Klipsch, what were they, KG 4.2s, and the thing instantly fried a set of tweeters. And it did that because it had DC voltage coming out of the speaker outputs of the amplifier. Also, another thing too, a guy will bring these things home, hook them up to some speakers, and then you start fiddling around with the volume control or something, or one of the mode switches here or something like that, and it'll make this, loud deafening scratching noise, and you can just watch your cones, they just want to jump out of the speaker cabinet. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how I prevent that from happening. I don't want to damage my nice speakers. So let's tear into it, and I'll show you what I do here in step one. Okay, so the first thing I do is I want to check the amplifier receiver and just make sure that it's not sending huge amounts of DC current out to my speakers. So what I've done here in this receiver, I've put it on an auxiliary here on the front mode selector. I've got the volume turned all the way down, so there's no sound trying to be reproduced through this amplifier stage at all. So what I do here is I've got my little meter, and what I've done is I've plugged my test leads into the right channel, and I'm getting a reading of 1.4 millivolts DC. Okay, I'm not too worried about that. That's going to be okay. Let's go over to our next channel here, and yeah, those are cheap leads I'm using. Good meter, cheap leads. You gotta love it. Let's try to get this one in here. Left channel is reading 1.5 millivolts DC, and that's okay. If my cutoff here is if I see I don't know, 5 millivolts, 4 or 5 millivolts DC going through there, I think what I'll do at that point is take the cover off of the receiver or the amplifier, start going through, checking components, volume pots, all sorts of different stuff, checking the bias output on it, and try to get this stuff down. Every receiver or amplifier has a different voltage, but I don't want to put high amounts of DC voltage into my speakers. Something's wrong with it at that point, so that needs to be fixed. Okay, so this passed that test, so I can hook it up to the speakers. If you don't have a meter and this is confusing to you, what you could do is take an old car stereo speaker, hook up some wires to it, and plug these in the terminals, and as you turn the receiver on and off, look at the speaker and see if the speaker jumps. Does the speaker jump? Does the cone push out and hold, or does it go out for a nanosecond and then go back to rest position? Does it suck it in? If the speaker stays pretty level and it doesn't move, then you're okay. I've hooked up amplifiers when I haven't had a meter, but I've hooked up car amplifiers to my test speaker and just watch the cone jump out and hold it. That means it's putting out DC voltage. That amplifier will ruin your speakers. Okay, let's go on to the next test. Okay, now this test is going to show me if I have any pots here that are dirty. Now, you can do this, I think, 3 different ways. You can mad dog it and just plug this thing into your regular speakers, your home stereo speakers, and just be prepared for possibly cones to jump out of the cabinets, because it's going to make so much scratching noise in those volume pots and tone controls and whatnot. You could also plug a pair of headphones in, and I use wired headphones, and actually put them on my head, plug them into the 1/4-inch jack, and then go through and check all modes and functions that way. Or you could do it the way I'm going to do it, so we can actually make it easier to show what's going on in this video. And what I'll do is I'll take a decent Bluetooth speaker with a auxiliary input, 3.5 millimeter input. This little tuner here, this little receiver happens to have, for a headphone jack, the little 3.5 millimeter connector. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to check for scratchy volume control, mode switches here that are dirty push button switches, balance controls, etc. Okay, so this is a great way to do it without blowing up your good speakers. So let's go to auxiliary first. Let's check for a dirty pot. Can you hear that up there? So there's just a little bit of dirt in there, so we're going to clean this one up a little bit. Let's go to AM. And there's a couple things we can check here. We can check to make this, see if this switch is good. So we'll go back from AM to FM. A little funky right there. See that? So what we're going to do is we're going to de-aux and clean that up.
Some scattered showers now in Salt Lake City, cloudy and 81. 90.
That seems to be pretty clean. You know, we could hook a turntable up to this and make sure, and same thing with the auxiliary, another input, but this is acting up a little bit on AM. So we're going to address this pot here, okay? We're going to address the volume control. Now in tuning through here, this all seems to be nice and smooth. That's actually a really nice little receiver. Nice and quiet. We're on AM. That's quiet. We got a lot of power line noise here.
WGUL AM in Tampa.
So
that's not really a potato.
This is kind of a nice little receiver here. Let's go to FM.
Here, but they being queen.
Seems pretty good. Okay, now we're going to check balance. Let's go on here to some.
Democrat held the governor's office from 2004.
Let's go a little off here.
He was reelected to a 6-year term.
Okay. This will show up a lot of times in these old balance pots. Listen as I go to the left. There. This is a stereo speaker, so I can hear the static going from this channel to this channel. Okay. And same here. Okay. So we're going to address this one. Tone control seems to be pretty good. So just for giggles, we're going to go through here and do all this.
And not necessarily point to an increase in the number of cancer cases.
Loudness switch isn't making noise, but I think we're just going to go in here and do all of these. All right. So there you go. What I'll also do sometimes is on a jack like this, an input jack, I'll just take a 3.5 millimeter plug and just plug it in and unplug it a few times. But yeah, this isn't going to need much work at all. So anyway, now knowing this, these really aren't making that much noise. You know, some volume pots just get really. There we go. Listen to that. Okay, so it's a little worse than I thought. Imagine that making that noise through your good speakers. So that being said, we're going to go through here. We're going to clean all these out. I do feel a lot more comfortable about hooking this up to my good set of speakers. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're going to clean all this up, and I don't know, what should I play these on? You know what? I'm going to play this on my Klipsch Fortes. So stay tuned. Okay, so we've got everything all cleaned up. The unit's put back together. All the pots have been cleaned with some de-aux. And that didn't take too long, about 15 minutes or so. blew it all out, and then just kind of let it physically dry out, just any residual deox laying around in there. But all these controls are nice and smooth. They're not noisy. Balance control works excellent. No noise. Mode switch works great now. Everything's looking good. Now, I did leave the tuner alone. You don't want to spray deox in those open air caps that they use on those. So anyway, I don't really do, and I never do any of that, but I clean the loudness switch and all of this stuff up. So this thing runs like new now. If I had a service manual to this, I'd actually try to adjust the bias in there, and I think I'd pretty much have this thing as a wrap. But anyway, guys, this is what I do before I hook anything I bring home now to a decent pair of speakers. And currently, I'm running this on a set of Klipsch Fortes, and it sounds amazingly good. So stay tuned. I'm going to do a video review of this little mighty 10-watt receiver. Anyway, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up if you like this video. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. I've got more audio videos to come. Audio videos, get that. So appreciate it. And y'all have a good one.